Did I scare you? What's up? It's me, Pez Flips, if you couldn't tell by my lovely little stick and poke tattoos. Today we are joined with this guy. Now this is the WZM Cygnus. We're out here on a beautiful day. Look at that. That thing looks gorgeous. Now, first we will just go right into how the thing looks. And I realized that you could switch between 0.5 and 1. So we're about to move into the 1. So boom. So you'll see there. Wow, why is it 1 times 1 look so bad? I wonder if it's on because it's on action mode. But anyways, you can see that there is a little bit of texturing here on the tops. Even despite the fact that this is aluminum, there is still some texturing, but it doesn't really make too big of a difference because it's so small. Let's see what else. There is a little bit of texturing. I think it's just the native G10 look on the actual G10 itself, but it's nothing really fancy beyond the additional cutouts that they put right here on both sides of those scales. Let's see. The screws are also like faux anodized. And here's the blade. These inside little cutouts, you can't really get your fingers into them, but they didn't bother to chamfer them or smooth them out. So if you do feel them, it's kind of like the side of scissors almost. The point, I've dropped this guy a few times, but the point is a little rounded. This is, of course, a false edge, so super awesome if you're not really wanting to put your brain on and just flip, which is great for a YouTube video, kind of. But yeah, I've had this guy now for, gosh, almost a month now, if I think about it correctly. And I've had some interesting thoughts about it. When I first got this guy, let's go with the unboxing experience first. So I got this guy off of Call-A-Song, and this was like about $60 because I got, I think I bought it during Easter time, so I got like an Easter discount. And with that, it came in like the most ratty package ever. You wouldn't be able to tell that it was that. However, look at that spare hardware. Holy moly. I mean, I guess there is just a lot of screws in general, but like this thing came with just everything you could need. And with that, I mean, it just makes me really happy with it because I can just swap out stuff as needed, and there's a ton of bushings, and yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, obviously this guy is no real Cygnus. It doesn't come on the LDY standard of stainless steel washers. This one is bronze, if we switch back to that lovely ×1. Yeah, so this guy is very light. The first thing you'll notice is how light it is. With that being said, a lot of the weight is concentrated towards the end of the handles, and I think that's kind of something that needs to be done when it is just so light, because the conservation of momentum kind of needs a little bit of a cheat code. Otherwise, you're just kind of screwed. And that's the one thing, is that while I like this guy for being so light, sometimes I find myself missing the flow. With other knives that I have, because they're heavier, you start flipping and it's almost like the thing is floating in your hands. Whereas this one, you have to give it so much more, and you can get it to float kind of, but you're just having to work harder to get the same movements out, which is funny because you'd think it isn't the fact because it's light. It's just trying to maintain smooth flipping is more difficult. Now, obviously the advantage of having a light balisong is you can do momentum shifts really easily without fatigue. So like if you're doing, what the hell is this move called? But like, you know, going to the standard twirl, for example, you know, you can just easily change between your fingers and you're not going to get that fatigue there because of the fact that it is just so light. The balance, when I first got this thing, when they get this guy out of the box, first of all, you have to break the washers in anyways, but this guy was cranked down so tight that I thought it was like blade bites for a while, because it just wasn't swinging. So I actually had to, it doesn't come Loctited, which is nice, but I had to loosen it up because I think they were just over tightened, or the bushings were maybe just the teeniest bit undersized. But we'll eventually go into the sound. But the tolerances out of the box were amazing. I've dropped this guy, I've beat it, as you can tell. It's gotten some cosmetic damage, but I did have to tighten it up. After dropping it, I took it on like 2 or 3 very short walks, because I've been trying to start walking again after breaking my big toe. But yeah, I took it on a few walks, and I didn't really care if it dropped. Like, that's okay to me. And you know, it took them like a boss. No real issues with that, but the screws did come loose. So I don't think these guys, like, the hardware is awesome. I mean, obviously it's a clone, so the hardware is not going to be great, kind of a given, unless you're getting, I guess, Armshark, but even their screws will back out. So you are going to need to Loctite this once you find a good break-in point, and you can finish getting it worked in, because this one definitely benefits from that break-in period more so than some other ones that I've had. The sound, so here's the play. It is just ever so slightly loosened. You can't even see it. It's ever so slightly loosened for me so that it doesn't do that binding like I was telling you about. The sound, I would say, is okay. Well, we'll just listen to it. Oops. Now for the ice pick. So this guy has Carbon Honey thick in it, and maybe thin would be better. Another thing about this guy is that the way it's designed, having such a small blade profile when it's closed, which is great. If you put this in your pocket, the osmotic process of this oil through the material in your pants is going to pull out all this oil so quickly. So it feels like this thing just drinks oil. So if you're flipping it, it's not really the greatest. I mean, it's bronze washer, so it doesn't super matter if it's dry. This one is just one of those knives that sounds pretty shitty if it's dry. But yeah, this guy, the sound for me, I'm kind of mixed on it. I don't know if it's something to do with like the G10. It sounds better now that I've tightened it up, because I just recently tightened it. But like one side when I first got it, sounded a lot more thocky, like a deeper, like the G10 was actually dampening the sound a lot more significantly. I think that was the bite handle, and then the safe handle is a lot more tinny. And this guy, because it's not like aluminum, there's not like, I guess, that weight there. You know, the Cygnus isn't really that deep of a sound either, like the real one. But this one, I'm kind of torn in the sound. You know, the tolerances are fine. It's just, it doesn't do it for me. And I am somebody who definitely loves a good tune. And it's not like this thing has a bad tune. It's just the fact that it's so light. And it's aluminum and whatever. It just doesn't really hold the same kind of sound that I would want. But it is certainly quiet. It's not as loud as, like I remember, like, I just got home and I pulled out my Bally Plus Kraken. That shit was so loud. So, like, this guy is going to be much quieter, because the G10 does influence the sound. It's just not as considerable as something like a rep, for example. Like, the reps being all G10, the sound changes considerably. I would say it's different, but yeah, this one is also much grippier, which is getting me to the next point. So this guy, you can see, obviously the whole thing is G10, and even on the sides, like, these edges are pretty rough, like I mentioned in my previous video. But with that, I think this one is probably my grippiest knife that I have. And yeah, G10 might vary depending on where you live, but this one just feels so nice to me. Whereas with this guy, The G10, you can feel it sometimes, but obviously it has a design where it's meant to benefit from the both materials rather than just one or the other. Personally, I don't think G10 is really that grippy where chaplaining on like this area would really make a problem. You know, people will say like, oh, it's more comfortable, whatever. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I just don't have baby hands. Like, I have pretty baby hands, but that's never been a problem to me. And I also just like really aggressive texturing too, but I would rather have something that has more control and more grip than something that's slippery and more quote-unquote comfortable. So with that in mind, it's like, you know, to each their own, but I don't know if you really need that. From a design philosophy, it's sure interesting, but is it really offering something that groundbreaking? I don't know if I'd go that far, right? But that being said, you know, I still appreciate the fact that the G10 is there. I think that just aluminum would have been impossible. A nice thing about this guy flipping wise, so going back to the balance, this guy is, I'd say, neutral with slight handle bias. So with that, it does fan really well. You can see that there's not really any wobble. Maybe a little bit of a wobble. You don't really feel it too much. There's a slight inconsistency between the two handles. It's obviously not as bad as something like this alt blade because it has just such a weird weight distribution on here. It's not like a crazy difference, but you still feel that. I mean, that's kind of something that will happen regardless of what knife you have, but the benefit of this thing, I can hear it with the wind. The benefit of this thing being so light is that you can do so many more tricks with it. So like ladders are a lot easier than other ones because it is just so light, it doesn't want to get away from you. And the sandwich, I feel like you can still kind of feel the G10 on the sides here when you're going in for a ladder. Whereas, you know, with something like this where it's full aluminum, you still have the grip of the sandwich design, but it's not going to give you the same kind of grip to your fingers as the other one. And this one is like so cut out for an aluminum balisong, but even this feels like when you flip this guy for so long, it makes something as light as this feel heavy, which is another thing. You know, if you have, oh, I'm flipping the wrong one. If you have this guy as not your daily driver, you're going to feel weird picking it up. When I first picked it up out of the box, that lightness took a while to adjust to. It took me about a week until I felt like I was comfortable with this thing. But that being said, like, you can just flip for so long and you don't develop that fatigue because of the weight. And because it's so light, you can be a lot more nimble and try things that you wouldn't be able to do. And the fact that it is a false live blade, you can also kind of just, you know, go crazy and do whatever you want, really, and it doesn't really matter. I mean, like, yeah, a point might poke you a little bit, but even because the point is rounded, you'll be kind of just chilling. But in terms of like a competitive flipper, I would say this guy is there. You know, it's different from a Kraken. I think a Kraken is certainly much more, it's got more weight, so it'll carry weight a little bit better. So like my Bally Plus Kraken, I would say is durability wise better because the whole thing is aluminum. That one still has pretty good grip, but this one is going to have a better sound in my opinion in terms of just annoyance. So for longer sessions, this guy's going to do you more because it's quieter and it's not going to have like a crazy sound. So if you're like indoors, for example, you're not going to get like, not like a headache, but you kind of get what I mean, just getting annoyed from hearing the sound over and over and over. But yeah, and with that weight, you know, you can just get away with so much more stuff that you wouldn't be able to otherwise. Is it my favorite? I don't know. I always go back and forth on my favorites, but I would say it's certainly a fun addition to have. And for the price, like I've been really happy with it. And you've seen a lot of my clips. I've been at my girlfriend's apartment, so I've been just stuck there while my foot was healing. And being just with this guy is actually pretty acceptable. Now, you're going to have to either Loctite or bring a screwdriver with you, because this thing will back out pretty easily. But that being said, you know, I have beaten it, and the cosmetic damage for it being 70-75, you know, it holds up pretty well. So there's not really a complaint in terms of it performing as a beater. And obviously, this is 1-to-1 compatible with Cygnus stuff, so you could switch out the hardware. This hardware doesn't look too cosmetically appealing. It had like this worn off paint look when I got it out of the box. I mean, I didn't have all that extra hardware because they were not messing around when they gave me extra hardware, but you know, it's something that happens when you purchase clones. You're gonna have a little bit worse quality control, but that's to be expected. So as long as you have the tools to swap it out, which they do provide spare hardware, I think you're chilling. So that being said, would I recommend this to somebody? Yeah, if you're looking for a G10 balisong and you don't like the look of like the standard reps, because god do I not like that blade, or the trainer blade for that matter. Any of like the default like rep blades, I'm not a huge fan of. And then you have something like the Nautilus, for example, which I think looks fine. Not my favorite design, but looks pretty good. But then you have the problem with the disappearing handle gap because of the fact that it's on tang pins, and then also the fact that that one is incredibly handle biased. So this one gives you kind of a similar experience to the Nautilus without that handle bias. So you can kind of get away with doing fans and stuff like that a lot more often than you would be able to if you were using the Nautilus. I mean, people still rip on the Knot and, you know, hit fans and stuff. It's just, what do you prefer? And I would say, you know, neutral or slight neutral-ish more than that is going to offer you a lot more variety and be a lot more generalizable to a larger audience of flippers. So, foot is doing fine. Thanks for asking. I have it in this shoe for the first time in like 2.5 weeks. Actually, it'll be 3 weeks today since I broke the top of it. But thankfully, I don't need. I was in crutches this whole time. When I was like hitting those clips, I had my freaking knee against the bed like this, so I could like flip and stand on one leg the whole time. So yeah, my left leg is like super strong now, but I'm finally back, finally at my place. I can record longer videos. So yeah, I have a interesting idea for something that I could record on my desktop, but you know, I want to keep that secret, protect the Jaden IP resources. Oop, just leaked my name, but yeah. Anyways, it's been Pez. Let's see. Clip time? Okay. We're gonna try the drift. Okay. You get 3 tries. Last time we didn't get it, so I'm not even on the right spot yet. Here we go. Okay. We'll just make this one short. 3rd time. I almost had it. Well, you know, we can't always be winners, so anyways, it's been Pez Flips. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.